And welcome to the M2 Podcast. I'm your host, Mad Mike. Welcome back. This is episode 5, where we cover your esports and personalities, your gaming industry related news, some technology and innovation, and some upcoming gaming events for this week. We got a show for you this week. Over the course of the last 7 days, we found out that 100 Thieves will be leaving CSGO, Epic Games, and Apple are in a legal battle that will be resuming in court. xCloud is going to arrive on iOS at some point. MSI Subsidiary was caught scalping RTX 3080s on eBay. But before we get into that, we need to go ahead and cover some new news, very recent news, of 3 prominent Twitch streamers getting together and creating their own streaming organization. Asmongold, Mizkif and Esfand have joined forces to start a new organization aimed at bringing like-minded content creators together, which they have dubbed OTK, or more formally, One True King. The trio are well-known Twitch personalities in their own right, and are some of the biggest names in World of Warcraft on the site. Joining them as co-founders are fellow streamer Tips Out and former esports host Rich Campbell. All 5 of them have worked extensively together during their online careers, which served as both the foundation for their friendship and the new OTK org. As mentioned, OTK won't be simply an esports org by itself. At several times, Asmon and other founding members refer to it as a network of streamers and content creators who all want to collaborate together, which makes sense. More recruits and signings are sure to be announced by OTK and the founders themselves in the weeks to come, so it's probably wise to keep an eye on their socials and Twitch streams to keep up to date on the latest news. As for what esport the org could be dipping its toes into to start with, WoW is the obvious choice, but there are plenty of potential games and even more teams that would be happy for a shot with OTK. For now, all fans can do is watch and wait while the newest entertainment powerhouse lifts off. So on a commentary note, what I've noticed over the past couple of weeks are that big name organizations and esports teams are no longer just sponsoring players or competitors in their respective scene. They've been branching out more into content creators, specifically Twitch streamers, YouTubers, even some live streamers that are on YouTube and Facebook. It seems as though they realize that they need to be more than just a team when it comes to competing in high-level leagues. They need to also have some form of a brand and get sponsorship recognition by sponsoring people that are really well-known personalities. And I think that's a really good idea. So with OTK being formed by 3 massive Twitch streamers that have just yet to break out into the YouTube scene, it's a pretty good idea. And they seem to be ahead of the curve on this by starting off initially as a streamer, content creator style organization, and then branching out into esports. There are other teams that originally started off in content creators before. One comes to mind would be Optic Gaming or even FaZe Clan. They were mostly just really good YouTubers that created cool videos for in the CSGO, or not CSGO, sorry, it's in the Call of Duty era. So watching them expand into esports should be exciting and new and refreshing. So best of luck to them. If you don't know who they are, highly recommend checking them out. It's Mizkif, Asmongold, personal favorite of mine, and Esfand. All good dudes, super entertaining people. So check them out. Now, speaking of 100 Thieves, Nadeshot, one of the most well-known people in pretty much esports now. He's massive. He's pretty big Twitch streamer. He's the CEO and head of 100 Thieves. He recently announced that 100 Thieves will be leaving the CSGO competitive scene. It's going to disband its current roster following a series of recent transfers and poor results. Now, this is going to come as a shock, especially because 100 Thieves has been a part of that entire league since 2017, but they really haven't had much success within the league. Outside of it, they've been very successful. Now, I actually have a clip of Nadeshot their CEO and founder, talking about the reason why they want to leave or disband the team and exit CSGO. And I'll go ahead and play this for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the worst part of my job, by far. I hate sitting in front of this camera and having these conversations with you, but ultimately, it comes with the territory of owning and operating an esports organization. So I'm going to share this bad news with you, and then we're going to talk about what led to this decision. Unfortunately, 100 Thieves is exiting CSGO. I think the most glaring issue that our organization has faced has been COVID. 2020 was definitely not the year that any of us anticipated. I think the entire esports industry, along with every industry in any business vertical, has been affected negatively because of COVID. And for us specifically, what went wrong? It's been a multiple of factors. It's been a multiple reasons. Number one, 100 Thieves is a North American organization. We have loved and cherished every moment that our CSGO team has competed at the 100 Thieves Cash App compound. That's where we want our teams to be. That's where we want our players to be. We want to give them the support structure that they deserve. We want to integrate them into our culture. We want to be there for them for any problem that they might have, big or small. And what's happening right now in CSGO, everything is transitioning over to Europe. We talked to our players about what solutions we can find because they've been competing their butts off and they have done the best job that they could to bring 100 Thieves the results that we strive for. And unfortunately, we've fallen short quite a bit. So even if we wanted to make roster changes, there were still hurdles in our way. Right now, with the qualifications and the point system for CSGO majors, any roster movement that we would have made could have jeopardized our position, our opportunity to even compete in a major. And that was a gigantic roadblock. So as we talked to our players and discussed what options they might have, it ultimately led to we need to be in Europe. And for all the reasons that I talked about, why we want them in LA and why we want to be able to be there for them for any problem, big or small, we can't do that. We cannot provide that for them while they're competing in Europe. And we did not want to stand in their way of the success of their careers and the next chapter for them. And so we felt like we were in a position where our hands were tied. Not only can we not support them in Europe, but a couple of our players can't even be in North America right now due to travel bans and visa issues. So what we decided to do was have conversations with multiple organizations to see if we can find them a proper home and give them all the things that we can't right now. At the end of the day, we believe that our players' success, whether they're competing for us now or in the future, is our number one priority, and them being in Europe with other organizations was the best solution that we could find. At the end of the day, I will always cherish the moments that we had with these players and the sheer grit that they have shown day after day in practices that you guys don't see and the tournaments that you guys have been able to watch. And that has been my favorite part of this entire experience. And I know that every individual player on this team is going to go on to do great things. And I can't wait to see it happen as a spectator watching from afar. I have loved every moment that we have spent in the CSGO community. We will continue to support it. We'll continue to keep our eyes on it. And we wish nothing but the very best for our players, our coaches, the teams that they will spend the rest of their careers on, and for the entire community, the tournaments, the structure of those tournaments, the future of majors. We want it all to succeed. And we might find ourselves in this community and a part of this game again with another iteration of a roster. There's just too much ambiguity, too much vagueness, and too much uncertainty for us to be a part of it right now. And all this news and everything I've just shared with you comes with a heavy heart. New York will be the last time our players compete under the 100 Thieves banner. We still have a couple matches to go. So I hope you guys tune in, send them your support, and send them our love. And when it comes down to it, we wish them all the best. I hope this makes sense. I hope you guys understand. I appreciate you guys listening to me speak. And it just sucks. It just sucks. We wish there was a better answer, but this is what's best for our business. This is what's best for our players. And this is what's best for their careers. Hope you guys have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. We'll talk soon.
Yikes. That's a pretty heavy hit for 100 Thieves. So, a little bit of context. When it comes to CSGO, there are pretty much two different regions that actually matter. It's either NA, North America, or EU, Europe. And traditionally, all the best talent and all the best teams are from Europe. And 100 Thieves has a couple of people that are actually from Europe on their team, which is what Nadeshot was bringing up about how they can't actually come over and visit because of the travel bans. And the same thing goes for the Americans that they have on their team. They can't take them over to Europe right now for future tournaments and to do lands and to compete in this league. So this is a pretty big hit for 100 Thieves. I understand, especially from a business point, as Nadeshot mentioned. The only way to make it logistically possible to operate the team in CSGO right now would be to move the entire team from LA and where they're stationed and set up already and create an entirely new facility somewhere in Europe so that they can travel around and go to the future tournaments, or at least do some type of LAN party or internet connections being better over there just based on the teams being closer. Now, this next story is actually something that I was waiting to get involved in or to touch on because it's been developing. The topic is really Epic Games versus Apple. And if you're unaware of the events, essentially Fortnite has been removed from Apple Store because Epic Games essentially went around the Apple Store's rules and policies. They pretty much defied everything. There's a big lawsuit. The companies are accusing one another, like anti-competitive actions. We're just going to go ahead and dive into this. I'll give a whole recap right now. Apple has faced increasing scrutiny over its App Store practices from both developers and regulators this year. One particular vocal critic has been the Fortnite creator Epic Games. They've repeatedly referred to the App Store as a monopoly. In August 2020, Apple removed Fortnite from the App Store after Epic Games introduced a direct payment option in the app for its in-game currency V-Bucks, defying the App Store rules. In what appears to have been an orchestrated move, Epic Games promptly filed a lawsuit against Apple, accusing the company of anti-competitive actions. Mac Rumors put together a timeline or a series of events of essentially how all of this came to be. So how did we get here? In June 16th, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney tells the Washington Post that, quote, the iOS App Store is a monopoly and it protects only Apple profit, not device security. Sweeney quotes tweets the Washington Post story. Here Apple speaks of a level playing field. To me, this means all iOS developers are free to process payments directly. All users are free to install software from any source. In this endeavor, Epic won't seek nor accept a special deal just for ourselves. It goes on. About a week later, June 23rd, Sweeney tweets, opening iOS and Android up as a truly open platform with a genuinely level playing field between first-party and third-party apps and stores is the only way to ensure a competitive, healthy, and fair app economy. About a month later, July 24th, Sweeney tells CNBC that the App Store is an absolute monopoly, arguing that Apple has locked down and crippled the ecosystem by inventing an absolute monopoly on the distribution of software, on the monetization of software. 4 days later, Sweeney tweets again, it pains me to complain about Apple in this way. Apple is one of the greatest companies that has ever existed, perhaps the greatest, but they're fundamentally wrong in blocking competition and choice on devices they make, and that holds up entire fields of technological progress. Sweeney tweets, this is a critical consideration in these 30% store fees. They come off the top before funding any developer costs. As a result, Apple and Google make more profit from most developers' games than the developers themselves. That is terribly unfair and exploitive. But essentially what's going on here is Sweeney is really upset with how much the store fees actually cost to host the apps on their devices. A couple of days later, August 1st, Sweeney tweets, Apple's intentional anti-competitive strategy has been running for much longer than most realize. Here they are in 2011, muscling Kindle purchases off of iPhone by demanding 30% of ebook revenue, which we acknowledge is prohibitive for many things. Now, this is where we get into the lawsuit. Nearly 2 weeks later, August 13th, Epic Games introduces a direct payment option in the Fortnite app for iPhone and iPad, allowing players to purchase in-game V-Bucks at 20% discount by sidestepping Apple's in-app purchase mechanism. This functionality violates Apple's App Store review guidelines, which indicates that apps offering in-game currency must use Apple's in-app purchase mechanism only. The direct payment option is also added to the Fortnite app on Android in violation of Google's Play Store rules. Epic Games then describes Apple's and Google's 30% cut on in-app purchases as exorbitant. Epic also notes that apps that offer real-life goods and services like Uber, DoorDash, and StubHub are not required to use Apple's in-app purchase mechanism, a rule that is believed should apply to all developers. Literally, that day, Apple removes Fortnite from the App Store. In a statement shared with Mac Rumors, the company said that Epic Games took the unfortunate step of violating the App Store guidelines that are applied equally to every developer and designed to keep the store safe for our users. The full statement is as follows. Today, Epic Games took the unfortunate step of violating the App Store guidelines that are applied equally to every developer and designed to keep the store safe for our users. As a result, their Fortnite app has been removed from the store. Epic enabled a feature in its app which has not been reviewed or approved by Apple, and they did so with the express intent of violating the App Store guidelines regarding in-app payments that apply to every developer who sells digital goods or services. Apple has had apps on the App Store for a decade and have benefited from the App Store ecosystem, including its tools, testing, and distribution that Apple provides to all developers. Epic agreed to App Store terms and guidelines freely, and we are glad they built such a successful business on the App Store. The fact that their business interests now lead them to push for special arrangements does not change the fact that these guidelines create a level playing field for all developers and make the store safe for all users. We will make every effort to work with Epic to resolve these violations so they can return Fortnite to the App Store. Promptly after this, Epic Games files a lawsuit against Apple in California describing the company as a monopoly power and accusing of unfair and anti-competitive actions. The complaint alleges that Apple has become what it once rallied against: the behemoth seeking to control markets, block competition, and stifle innovation. And Epic Games shared a video called 1980 Fortnite, and it's parroting Apple's iconic 1984 ad. Whereas Apple's ad betrayed IBM as the evil big brother, Epic Games to show that Apple is now the dominant power. Epic Games has defied the App Store monopoly. In retaliation, Apple is blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from becoming 1984. And if you thought that was crazy, it just continues to get out of control just on this day. Apple encouraged Fortnite players to fight against Apple's app tax by using the hashtag #FreeFortnite on all social platforms. In an FAQ, Epic says that all mobile developers and consumers have the right to choose alternate payment providers that charge less, as is the norm on all general-purpose computing platforms, including web, Windows, and Mac. Epic adds that Apple even allows Amazon Prime Video to process payments directly as a special deal while holding other apps to a different standard. Spotify ends up siding with Epic Games. Google removes Fortnite from the Play Store. Epic Games also files a similar anti-competitive lawsuit against Google. And then Sweeney comes out and he tweets, "Today, Apple said Epic is seeking a special deal, but that's not true. We're fighting for open platforms and policy changes equally benefiting all developers, and it'll be a hell of a fight." And this all happened essentially on August 13th. It continues going back and forth with Apple execs and Epic Game execs basically just throwing shade at each other. Epic Games, for example, a couple of days later ended up saying that their development program for Apple would be terminated, and this would prevent them from having any access to Apple's software, so like SDKs, APIs, and developer tools. And without this access, Apple couldn't even be on iOS or Mac OS because the Unreal Engine wouldn't work on it. Epic Games also announced that they were going to be doing a hashtag free Fortnite Cup tournament the next week. You have several court filings coming out that argues that Apple's plan to terminate its development program membership could be overbroad retaliation and an unlawful effort to maintain its monopoly and chill any action by others who might dare oppose Apple. Microsoft ends up filing a declaration in support of Epic Games, in which Xbox gaming executive Kevin Gamble writes that Apple's discontinuation of Epic's ability to develop and support Unreal Engine for iOS and macOS will harm game creators and gamers. Now keep in mind, Unreal Engine is used by many other developers, not just Epic Games. So this would affect a lot of people. Subsequently, due to the blocking of Epic Games' Unreal Engine, a U.S. judge granted temporary restraining order that will prevent Apple from blocking Epic Games' access to development tools for its Unreal Engine. But as of now, she is not forcing Apple to put Fortnite back on the App Store. The restraining order goes into effect immediately and will remain in force until the court issues a final order on the motion or preliminary injunction in September. Things start heating up around early September. Epic Games ended up filing a preliminary injunction that would both allow Fortnite back on the App Store and restore access to its development account. September 8th, Apple countersues Epic Games requesting damages for breach of contract. In its answer, Apple describes Epic Games as a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that simply wants to pay nothing for a tremendous value it derives from the App Store. The following day, Epic Games announces that Apple will no longer allow users to sign into Epic Games accounts using Sign In with Apple as soon as September 11th. September 10th comes around, and Epic says that Apple had provided an indefinite extension to Sign In with Apple support, but Epic still encourages users to transition their accounts to alternative credentials in case Apple does disable the feature at some point in the future. Nearly 2 weeks later, the same judge as before recommends that Apple and Epic Games consider a jury trial around July 2021. And then the following day, September 29th, Apple and Epic Games agree that Epic's claims and Apple's counterclaims should be tried by the court with a bench trial rather than a trial jury. Alright, so I'm sure you're wondering, where the heck are we now? As of last week, we found out that Epic Games and Apple will go to court. Their court date is set for May 3rd, 2021, as of now. And we have no idea whether or not it's going to be held in person or virtually or some combination of both because of what's going on with the pandemic right now. But we'll find out a little bit more information later on. But to recap here, this is a very calculated plan by Sweeney at Epic Games for what they wanted to do against Apple. They're sick and tired of Apple and Google taking a 30% cut of all the money that they're making on their platforms. And everything leading up into this event is 100% calculated by Epic Games. I mean, just the constant tweets by Sweeney basically attacking Apple beforehand, months leading up to this. Then you just have one day where they do a runaround to avoid the extra charges on both Google and Apple, and simultaneously announce on Twitter that you can do it, and release a 1984 parody to insult Apple and basically say, yeah, middle fingers up. We don't care anymore, man. Come and fight us. So that's all the information we have on this. Epic Games versus Apple so far. And this is definitely going to be a developing story that we're going to keep pretty close attention to for the coming months. It's not over. I'm sure Sweeney's Twitter is going to be straight fuego from now on, and him insulting Apple and Google simultaneously is going to be very interesting. Which side are you guys on? Are you on Apple's side or are you on Epic Games' side? How do you feel about it as a consumer? If you're a developer, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. moving on. Speaking of Microsoft and Apple and xCloud and all this iOS stuff that's happening, a couple episodes we got into the topic of xCloud and the potential for what Microsoft's trying to do for the future of gaming, and how everything's basically going to be over the air. You're going to be able to play your games on whatever device you want, whenever you want, as long as you have the app for it. Now, there's one big hurdle that Microsoft has yet to accomplish, is they can't currently use an xCloud app on an Apple device. It's not allowed based on Apple's terms and conditions and services. However, Microsoft's Phil Spencer has reportedly said that xCloud is coming to iOS. Now, according to Business Insider reports, during an all-hands call, Phil Spencer told employees that the company plans to bring Game Pass and cloud streaming to iOS devices via browser-based solution at some point in 2021. And another report by The Verge backed up that account of his statements, and also said Spencer laid out a plan to launch xCloud on streaming for Windows PCs next year. The timing of Spencer's comments is especially interesting, as earlier he detailed 10 App Store principles that it claimed will promote choice, ensure fairness, and promote innovation on Windows 10. Among those promises, Microsoft said it wouldn't block competing app stores from Windows, and wouldn't block apps from its store based on the developer's choice of payment processes for in-app purchases, which is specifically what the fight between Apple and Epic is focused on. It also touched on its own issue with the Apple setup by promising not to block an app based on whether content is installed on a device or streamed from the cloud. And of course, Tim Sweeney tweeted, what Microsoft is doing is the future of app stores. It's wonderful to see Microsoft formally codify its long-held principles in Windows as an open platform and a fair market for all developers and consumers. Microsoft has said its new policy is built on the ideas of the Coalition for App Fairness formed by Epic, Spotify, and others in a way to help the company practice what it preaches. Notably, the 10 principles only apply to Windows, but not Microsoft's Xbox console gaming platform, which is far more restricted. Citing fundamental differences in the business model for how a console hardware is sold, Microsoft said, "We have more work to do to establish the right set of principles for game consoles." Now, in layman's terms, basically, Apple doesn't allow developers to have an app on their device that lets you stream or play games over or through the cloud. You essentially need to make the game an app that you download and it's physically on the device, and it basically gives Apple more control and more security, because that's essentially what Apple's branding is now. It's a secure place where the motto that people believe is like they're unhackable. They won't sell your data. So they need to make sure that that brand is always going to be there. Personally, I think with all this news coming out, with Apple essentially preventing people from having their own apps and making it more challenging for people to get on their app store, it's not the way the industry is really moving right now, and they're pretty much becoming the unnecessary barrier in the progression of the industry. The industry right now is going to be all cloud gaming in the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to be able to play any game you ever want on any device you ever want. And Apple right now is making it very difficult to do that on any Apple device. So it's only a matter of time until they give in. It's just the consequences of how they're going to give in and how much leeway they're going to allow is yet to be seen. If they steadfast, then you might have a whole bunch of Apple users that won't be able to enjoy the benefits for upcoming devices and games and where the technology's headed. Obviously, this is only a concern if you're really big into gaming, and if you have an Apple phone right now, I think you should be a little bit concerned that you might have to wait a long time to be able to play games on your phone from anywhere in the world, really, as long as you have internet connection, or if you have cell coverage, probably do that too. Now moving on to our final story. This one's kind of weird, okay? There's a lot of allegations. It's pretty complicated. It's still new, but we're going to touch on it a little bit. Keep in mind, these are accusations. There's some proof here and there. You can kind of read between the lines. It's still developing, like I said, so take some of this with a grain of salt. MSI was apparently selling Geforce RTX 3080s at a much higher price through its subsidiary on eBay. The eBay listings reveals that the company known as Starlit Partner has sold 4 Geforce RTX 3080 graphics cards at a price of $1,359 USD. That is almost twice as much as the Nvidia suggested retail price for the SKU, and around 600 USD more than the retail price for this particular MSI Gaming X model. Well, this wouldn't be a story initially if not for the fact that the company is owned by MSI USA. There were a lot of people on Reddit, there were a lot of YouTubers that basically took notice to this right off the bat, and eventually the pressure came down to MSI and they issued a statement. Starlit Partner is an individual sales subsidiary working under MSI. They carry excess inventory and refurbished items and would not be given newly released products such as the Geforce RTX 30 series graphics cards. As such, we have conducted an investigation and found that an error allowed them access to inventory they were not permitted to handle. Starlit Partner has been instructed to contact the individual customers who purchase these graphic card products and offer 2 options: return the product and receive a full refund, or a partial refund of the amount paid per MSI's MSRP. Moving forward, MSI will enforce a stricter policy to avoid situations like this happening again. Basically what's going on here is that you have Starlit getting access, at least that's what they're now being accused of getting access into MSI's inventory and taking the Geforce RTX 30 series graphics cards, putting them on eBay and selling them for twice as much as what the original cost of them are. They're essentially doing something illegal, I would assume, because they're overinflating the prices by creating some type of arbitrary scarcity. I mean, granted, there's not that many cards going on right now, but if the MSRP value is half the price of what they're trying to sell it for on eBay, that doesn't seem ethically correct. Now, there's a famous YouTuber that had a really good take on this, and I'm gonna play a couple of clips, audio tracks for it, but he brought up several good points about this. His name is JayzTwoCents. You might have heard of him, but this is what he had to say.
2, I don't buy this whole error thing. When you have a product that is as desired as the 30 series with as little inventory as the 30 series, I would think you would know where every single one of your dozens of graphics cards are going. So I don't believe whatsoever that Starlit was able to get their hands on new graphics cards without MSI's parent companies and distributors within their own organization knowing where they're going. You track that stuff. Serial numbers, tracking, distribution, it's all managed and handled digitally as well. So there's no reason whatsoever they shouldn't have known that Starlit was getting these graphics cards. Second, the amount of people that have spoken up and said, this is complete bullshit because I bought my brand new 20 series cards from them, tells you that they've had access to new inventory for a lot longer than right now by some error. The error, I think, is that they got caught. And I have a feeling that MSI's parent company may not have known that this was happening, but someone within Starlit and someone within, I hope it's not the MSI US office because it's the ones we directly work with, but Starlit and all that is happening right here in the US. Someone knew and someone was intending to profit off of this, because here's the thing. If you're a multi-billion-dollar company, I would think that your reputation and your trust within the consumer is worth more than double the price of an $800 graphics card sold in the dozens of units. It's not enough to be any sort of profit. It's not enough to change any sort of bottom line. And if you're an investor and you keep seeing these types of stories coming out of MSI, not to mention the weirdness of, and I don't know how related this is, this could be tinfoil hat theory. Don't forget, earlier this summer, the CEO of MSI committed suicide. There is a lot of weird stuff happening right now within this organization. And it's one of those things where every time something like this happens, I think it weakens faith within the brand. Not only maybe amongst its own investors, its own employees, but definitely the consumers. And for us as reviewers, and I've said this a million times, my loyalty is to this audience, not to any of these brands. It makes it very difficult for us to want to consider working with these brands when these types of stories continue to happen.
Honestly, I thought it would be best just to play JayzTwoCents take on this because it's true. There's something going on at MSI. This doesn't make any sense. Hopefully the people that made this decision, because there's no way you would not know this is wrong, right? This is absurd. Hopefully they're punished. Hopefully there's some type of action being put into place so that this never happens again. Because you're essentially, you're stealing from the customer at this point. And like Jay said, it's not worth losing your brand recognition and tainting what your brand stands for. All right, well, I think that's all we got for you this week. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for tuning in. We'd love for you to be involved in the chats and the discussions. I'd love to hear your take on whether or not you guys think MSI is guilty, if they knew about this, or if it was out of their control. Your take on the xCloud and Microsoft basically siding with Epic Games over Apple. Who really should win between the Epic Games and Apple legal battle that's going to be going on in the courts for the next couple of years. If you'd like to join the discussion, I'm on pretty much every social you can possibly think of. My handle is at MadMikeWillEatYou. The U is the letter U. Again, at MadMikeWillEatYou. I also stream on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I go for about 2 to 3 hours depending on what's going on, but definitely a minimum of 2. And we also have a Discord that we're trying to get more members, more involvement. If you're a content creator, we'd really like you to join. Try to get everybody working together to try to improve their own individual brands and just improve themselves. So if that's something you're interested in, the links should be in the description of wherever you're watching or listening. We're pretty much on every platform you can think of. So this is Mad Mike. You just listened to the M2 podcast of episode 5. Thank you and peace.
Travel the one way, take her chance. Believe in